The sharp bark tore through the stillness of Port Haven's oldest funeral home like a bullet. People flinched. Some gasped. Most turned in confusion toward the front of the chapel. Captain Jake Munro stood rigid, jaw clenched, his eyes locked on the black and tan German shepherd lunging toward the polished oak casket. "Rex!" he shouted instinctively. But Rex didn't stop. The dog's muscles tensed, hackles raised, his bark relentless, primal. He yanked hard against the leash held by Mrs. Natalie Brooks, widow of the late police chief Raymond Brooks. She stumbled forward, barely holding on. "Somebody get that damn dog out of here!" growled Deputy Chief Mitch Callahan from the front pew, his voice sharp and angry. The minister paused mid-prayer. The room was paralyzed. Jake stepped forward, ignoring the whispers building around him. The casket sat under a soft white spotlight, draped in the American flag. Rex was now just feet away, barking directly at it, not in sorrow, but in warning. "Let him go," Jake said, voice low but firm. Natalie hesitated. "Jake, he's never—" "Let him go." She released the leash. Rex charged. In a blur, he leapt onto the carpeted platform, knocking over a vase of white lilies. The flowers crashed to the ground. Murmurs turned to gasps. A child began to cry. Jake moved fast, hands out, trying to calm the crowd. "Everyone stay seated." Rex began tearing at the silk cloth draped over the lower half of the casket, his teeth sinking in, his growls deepening. He wasn't mourning. He was alerting. "What the hell is happening?" Someone hissed. Callahan stood. "This is disgraceful. Get that mutt out of here." Jake didn't move. "No, something's wrong. It's a funeral." Callahan snapped. "You're letting a dog ruin it." "He's not just a dog," Jake said, eyes never leaving Rex. "He's a K9. He knows what death smells like. And this isn't that." Rex whined, pawed at the side of the casket, then let out a high-pitched bark. Then again, and again. Each time louder, more urgent. Natalie stepped forward, pale. "Rex, what are you trying to tell us?" Jake turned to the funeral director. "Open it." "What?" "Open the casket, now!" "No, absolutely not!" Callahan barked. "Have you lost your mind? I'm the ranking officer in this room. That's an order." All eyes turned to Natalie. Her voice trembled. "Do it!" The director hesitated, but then stepped forward. His hands shook as he reached for the clasps. They clicked open one by one. The room was dead silent. He slowly lifted the lid. Everyone leaned in. There lay Chief Raymond Brooks, dressed in his full uniform, face serene, hands crossed over his chest. Then Rex let out a different sound. Low, steady. A sound Jake hadn't heard since the fentanyl warehouse bust 2 years ago. A warning. Jake leaned closer. Something wasn't right. The color on Brooks's face looked off. Too even. Too perfect. Dr. Tasha Lee, the county medical examiner, appeared beside him. "I wasn't called to examine him," she whispered. "No autopsy, just a paramedic's word and a death certificate." "That's not how we do things," Jake muttered. "Not for a chief." Rex placed both front paws on the edge of the casket and growled. Suddenly the chief's fingers twitched. Jake's heart stopped. "Did you see that?" "I did," Tasha said. Callahan was frozen in place, his expression blank. Then Brooks's eyelids fluttered. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Someone dropped their phone. The minister staggered back, crossing himself. "Call 911!" Jake shouted. "Now!" Dr. Lee leaned over the casket, 2 fingers at Brooks's neck. "He's alive. Barely. Weak pulse. We need paramedics yesterday." Rex barked once, sharp and short, then sat down beside the casket, panting heavily. Natalie collapsed into a pew, sobbing. Brooks was alive, and someone had tried to bury him. Jake spun toward Callahan, who hadn't moved. "What the hell is going on, Mitch?" he demanded. Callahan didn't answer, just stared at the casket, jaw tight. Jake stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "You signed off on the death report." Callahan's voice was flat. "The paramedics confirmed cardiac arrest." "You rushed the funeral. No ME review. No autopsy." It was Natalie's request. Natalie looked up, eyes blazing. "No, I never asked for a closed case. You insisted everything move quickly." "Because you were in shock," Callahan said quickly, but his voice cracked. Rex let out another growl. The room shifted. People turned. The tension thickened like smoke. Jake locked eyes with Callahan. "Where were you yesterday at 7:30 a.m.? I was with my team," Callahan said. "Briefing the mayor." "You sure about that?" Dr. Lee stepped in. This man was injected with a paralytic agent, slow-acting, designed to mimic death. If Rex hadn't reacted... Jake finished her sentence. He'd have been buried alive. Sirens wailed outside. The paramedics burst in, pushing through the stunned crowd. Tasha gave them a quick rundown. As they carefully transferred Brooks to a gurney, one of them paused. "This isn't a standard case. We need to alert the hospital." Rex followed the gurney until it disappeared out the doors. Jake reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Captain Monroe. I'm declaring the funeral home an active crime scene. No one leaves." He turned back to Callahan. "You're not going anywhere." Callahan smirked faintly. "You don't have anything on me." "Not yet," Jake said. "But Rex does." Rex stood beside Jake now, ears perked, tail still, eyes locked on Callahan. "Good boy," Jake whispered. "Let's find out what else they tried to bury." Rain slicked the streets of Port Haven as Jake Monroe sat motionless in his parked cruiser, eyes fixed on the hospital window above. Inside that ICU room, Chief Raymond Brooks was fighting to live. Barely. Rex sat in the passenger seat, tail still, ears up, watching. The dog hadn't made a sound since the ambulance sped away. He didn't need to. Jake broke the silence. "You saved his life, Rex." The shepherd blinked, then turned to the window again. 20 minutes earlier, Jake had radioed the precinct, declared Callahan under internal investigation, ordered the funeral home sealed, but now, alone in the rain, his hands trembled on the wheel. He reached for the dash cam footage from the chapel, played it back, paused on Rex lunging at the casket, rewound, played it again. Not grief. Instinct. Then came the knock. Jake turned as a woman in a soaked hoodie tapped on his window. He rolled it down a crack. "You're Captain Monroe?" she asked. Voice tight. Sharp eyes. "Yeah. I'm Dr. Tasha Lee, County Medical Examiner." Jake blinked. "You're young. And you're bleeding." She pointed to his forearm. He looked down. A glass shard from the broken vase had cut him during the commotion. He hadn't noticed. She climbed in the back seat without waiting for permission. Rex turned his head slightly, then faced forward again. "Your dog's incredible," Tasha said. "K9 retired?" "Was. Still acts like he's on the job." "I read the chief's medical file," she said. "From the funeral home. That wasn't natural death. Whoever wrote it up didn't even try to hide the cover." Jake frowned. "Callahan? Maybe, but it's sloppy. Like they were in a rush." Jake turned to her. "You said earlier the chief was injected. With what?" "Still running tox, but prelims suggest something paralytic. Maybe medetomidine or etorphine, but in sublethal doses. Enough to mimic death." "Who uses that stuff?" Zoo vets, black market suppliers, cartels. Jake felt his stomach drop. Jesus. She continued. They calculated the dose, enough to knock him out, slow the pulse but not kill. Which means this wasn't panic. It was planned. Planned to bury him alive. Jake shook his head. Why? Maybe he knew something. Something someone needed gone fast. Rex growled low. Not loud, just enough. Jake didn't need translation. And we walked right into it. Port Haven PD headquarters was quiet when Jake stepped inside. The late shift barely looked up. The building felt different now. Colder. He went straight to Brooks's office. Locked. He picked the handle with a spare master key. Rex followed close. The desk was clean. Too clean. Not Brooks's style. The man lived in post-its and coffee stains. Jake went to the file cabinet. Empty. He turned to the bookshelf. Pushed aside an old yearbook from '91. Behind it, nothing. He opened the desk drawer. Paperclips, pens, a dusty badge box. Then he paused. The drawer had false depth. He tapped the bottom. Hollow. He grabbed a paperclip, straightened it, and popped the false floor. Inside, an envelope. Unmarked, sealed. Jake hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a photo, 2 USB sticks, and a single name scribbled on a yellow note. Dominic Sorrell. The name meant nothing. Yet. He pocketed the contents just as someone knocked on the open door. Detective Sarah Vance stepped in. Early 30s, dark suit, sharp mind, one of the few people Jake trusted. You really think Callahan's involved? She asked. Jake nodded. I think he's scared. Vance crossed her arms. He put in a leave request this morning. Said he needed time off to grieve. Jake narrowed his eyes. After the chief died? Or before? Time-stamped 8:01 a.m. Jake checked his watch. The funeral started at 9. That meant Callahan already knew Brooks wouldn't stay dead. Rex barked once. Abrupt. Loud enough to echo. Jake turned. He followed Rex out of the office, down the hallway, past the holding cells, into the evidence locker. Rex stopped at cage 4. Sat. Jake unlocked it. Inside, a sealed crate. Label, East Side Fentanyl Bust, number 487. Jake opened the crate. Empty. Where's the ledger? He asked aloud. Sarah leaned in. That's supposed to contain the distribution logs, maps, contacts. Jake stood slowly. Someone erased it. Callahan? She asked. No, too obvious. He paused. Someone else. He looked down at Rex, who was now standing. Tail low, head tilted. Jake muttered. Let's pay Natalie a visit. 10 minutes later, Natalie Brooks opened her door in a robe. She looked wrecked, hair frayed, hands shaking, but alert. Jake, she said, voice raw. Is he? He's alive, Jake said. Stable for now. She collapsed into a chair without a word. Rex padded toward her, nuzzled her knee. I brought him in earlier, she whispered, eyes watery. Rex, he wouldn't leave Ray's side. I thought he was mourning. But now... You said Ray had been distracted lately. Very, she said. Locked in his study most nights. Wouldn't talk. Took his coffee black again. That only happens when he's stressed. Jake sat across from her. Do you know a Dominic Sorrell? She froze, then slowly nodded. Real estate investor. Said he was working with Ray on a community housing initiative. Jake raised an eyebrow. Ray doesn't do real estate. He said it was part of a federal grant. I believed him. God, was I that naive? Jake stood. If Sorrell is involved, This goes deeper than Callahan. We'll need every file your husband kept. Anything off the record." She nodded. "His safe. Upstairs closet. You'll need his thumbprint." Jake looked at Rex. Rex looked at the stairs. Jake smiled grimly. "Let's go, partner." 15 minutes later, Jake stood in Brooks's study. The safe was open. Inside, cash bundles, 2 more USB drives, and a manila envelope marked "Clean Sweep." He handed one USB to Vance, who had just arrived. "Take this to Tasha. Don't trust anyone else." "And you?" Jake glanced down at Rex, who was already facing the window. "We're going to find Dominic Sorrell." It was nearly midnight when Jake stepped into the cold glow of the Port Haven PD surveillance room. Rex padded behind him, silent, watchful. Detective Sarah Vance looked up from the monitor bank. "I pulled street cams near Natalie's place," she said. "Got something." Jake leaned over her shoulder. The footage showed a black SUV pulling up across from the Brooks' home. Time-stamped 2 nights before the funeral. 2 figures stepped out, one tall, one limping. "No plates," Vance muttered. "They disabled the rear camera before it got close." "Can you enhance?" "Already did." She clicked a key. The face of the taller man came into view, fuzzy, distorted. But one detail caught Jake's attention. A tattoo, just visible on the side of his neck. An owl inside a triangle. Jake felt his gut twist. "I've seen that before." Vance frowned. "Where?" "On a dead dealer 2 months ago. East Side bust. Warehouse fire." He turned to Rex. The dog was already sitting up straighter, ears cocked. "Let's go." Rex barked once. They drove across town to the burned remains of the warehouse. Jake hadn't been back since the night they took down the East Side ring. At the time, they thought it was over. Clearly it wasn't. The fire damage had blackened half the building, but the shell remained. A yellowed "condemned" sign flapped in the wind. Jake ducked under the tape. Rex trotted beside him, nose twitching. Inside, the air was musty, bitter, the kind of place secrets liked to hide. Jake moved through the wreckage, flashlight in hand. "You smell anything?" Rex sniffed the ground, then froze. A growl built in his throat. He bounded ahead, paws echoing on the concrete floor, stopping near a melted support beam. Jake hurried over. Rex was pawing at a burnt-out locker. Jake yanked it open. Inside, a plastic bag, untouched by flame. He pulled it out, sliced it open with his pocket knife. Inside, a burner phone, a memory card, and a vial, half full of a pale blue liquid. Jake held it up. "This look like the stuff from Brooks' blood?" Rex huffed. Jake took that as a yes. His phone buzzed. "Tasha Lee." "I tested the chief's blood again," she said. "Whatever they used, it was lab grade, not off the street." "I think I found another dose," Jake replied. "And a burner." "Where?" "East Side warehouse. Old case." "You need to get that to me. Fast." Jake pocketed the vial and phone. "On my way." But as he turned, headlights flooded through the shattered window. Someone was outside. He killed his flashlight. "Rex, stay." Rex dropped low to the ground, barely moving. A door creaked open at the far end. 2 shadows entered. One short, stocky, the other thin, jittery. Jake pressed himself against the wall. "Boss said it was here," the taller one muttered. "Said the dog might have picked up the scent." Jake's heart stopped. They knew about Rex. "Place gives me the creeps," the other whispered. "Shut up and find the dose. He wants it back." Jake signaled Rex with a low whistle. The dog circled silently behind the intruders. Jake waited, listened, then stepped out. "Looking for something?" The 2 men spun. The short one pulled a knife. Rex growled, a low thunder. "Don't," Jake warned. The tall one lunged. Jake fired once into the ground. The man froze. Rex surged forward, teeth flashing. He latched onto the tall man's arm, dragging him down with a yelp. The short one ran. Jake chased him through the dark hall, boots pounding against concrete. The man hit a locked door. Jake tackled him hard from behind. They both hit the ground. Jake cuffed him fast. By the time they got back, Rex was sitting over the first guy, panting. The man whimpered, blood dripping from his sleeve. Jake pulled out his phone. "Vance, I've got 2. Meet me at Holding." An hour later, both men were booked. One name stood out. Trevor Pike, repeat offender. Small-time enforcer, worked security for a nightclub tied to a known cartel front. Jake paced outside the cell. "You ready to talk?" Pike leaned against the bars, smirking. "You don't scare me, Monroe." "No?" Jake nodded at Rex, sitting beside him. "He does." Rex let out a slow growl. Pike flinched. "I wasn't part of the plan," he said quickly. "I was just told to grab the dose if it got left behind." "Who told you?" Pike hesitated. Jake stepped closer. "We found the same drug in Chief Brooks's system. You know what that means?" Pike's face twitched. "Dominic Sorrell. He's the one pulling strings, not Callahan. Sorrell's higher up." "Where is he?" Pike shook his head. "He's a ghost. Uses proxies. Phones, never shows his face." Jake took a breath. "Then tell me what clean sweep means." Pike blinked. "What?" Jake showed him the envelope from the safe. "Where did you hear that name?" Pike swallowed. "That's internal. Only top tier know that phrase. It's a shutdown plan. Erase anyone close to exposure. Witnesses, cops, even clients." Jake stepped back. Brooks wasn't just targeted. He was marked for erasure. Suddenly everything clicked. The rush to bury him. The fake death certificate. The missing evidence. Clean sweep. Jake turned to Rex. "They were going to wipe us all out." Rex barked once. Sharp. They had to move faster. This wasn't about saving one life anymore. It was about stopping a purge. The hospital hallway reeked of antiseptic and adrenaline. Jake stormed in, badge clipped to his belt, Rex at his side like a shadow. Brooks' ICU room was guarded now, 2 local officers stationed at the door, rifles slung low. "Stand down," Jake ordered, flashing his ID. They moved. Inside, Chief Raymond Brooks lay pale but conscious, his eyes bloodshot, lips cracked. He looked like hell, but he was alive. Jake stepped in slowly. Brooks turned his head, blinked. "Jake." "Yeah, it's me," Brooks' voice rasped. "How long?" "Since the funeral. 2 days." Brooks tried to sit up. Winced. Jake moved to help. "Easy, you've been drugged. They nearly buried you." Brooks closed his eyes. "Callahan?" "Maybe," Jake said. "But he's not the mastermind." He held up a photo on his phone. "You know Dominic Sorrell?" Brooks' jaw tightened. "I tried to stop him," he whispered. "I thought I could get proof first, get inside, but he found out." Jake leaned in. "What's clean sweep?" Brooks opened his eyes. Pain behind them. "It's a protocol, a full system purge. Sorrell's method to cover his network. Witnesses, records, anyone who gets close." Jake exhaled. "He tried to clean sweep you." Brooks nodded. "And if he knows I'm alive..." A deafening blast shook the walls. Rex jumped to his feet, growling. Alarms screamed. Smoke rolled under the door. Jake bolted out, gun drawn. Fire in the east wing, flames licking out from under a utility room door. People ran, shouting. Nurses dragged gurneys. Sprinklers snapped on, raining chaos. Jake grabbed a nurse. "Where's the breaker room?" "Basement!" He took off down the stairwell. Rex ahead, barking once. Sharp. Focused. They hit the basement. Smoke choked the air. The breaker room door was open. Inside, wires cut. A device blinking red. "Bomb," Jake muttered. Rex barked again, pulling at his arm, urging him back. Jake didn't argue. They ran. Back upstairs, the ICU hallway was a war zone. Flames down one side, water flooding the floor. Brooks' room. Empty. Jake burst inside. The bed was overturned. IV line ripped out. A blood trail across the tiles. Then a voice behind him. "Drop it, Monroe." Jake turned. Deputy Chief Mitch Callahan stood in the doorway, gun aimed steady. His suit was damp, smeared with soot. Jake's hands slowly rose. "You son of a bitch!" Callahan's eyes were dead. "You weren't supposed to be here yet." "Neither were you." Callahan smiled. "That dog really knows how to ruin plans." Rex growled. A sound like a motor building steam. Jake glanced at the hallway. Too far. Callahan stepped closer. "Sorrel wanted Brooks gone. You too. But I told him it was messy. He didn't care." "You're working for a drug lord." "I'm working for survival," Callahan snapped. "You know how many bodies I've buried for this town. You think they made me deputy for my damn smile?" "You tried to bury Brooks alive." Callahan's eyes twitched. "He made his choice. So did you." Then it happened fast. Rex lunged. Jake ducked. Callahan fired once. Missed. Rex hit him center mass, jaws locking on his gun arm. They crashed to the floor. Jake scrambled, kicked the weapon away. Callahan screamed. "Get him off me!" Jake grabbed his cuffs. "Rex, release!" The dog pulled back. Just enough. Jake cuffed Callahan, twisted his arm behind his back. "You're done." Callahan spit blood. "You're already too late." A second explosion rocked the building. Jake hit the wall. Lights flickered. Fire alarms blared louder. Someone shouted, "Evac, now!" He looked down at Callahan. "Where's Brooks?" Callahan just laughed. Jake pressed his knee harder. "Where?" "Gone," Callahan hissed. "He's gone. Sorrel's got him." Rex snarled again. Jake stood. "We'll see about that." They evacuated through the west wing. Fire trucks already screaming into the parking lot. EMTs shouting. Officers flooding in. Outside, Jake threw Callahan into the back of a cruiser. Vance appeared, breathless. "I tracked the hospital camera feed," she said. 2 minutes after the blast, a black van pulled to the service entrance. Jake's voice was ice. "Brooks?" "Carried out on a stretcher, uniformed guy with forged EMT ID." Jake turned to Rex. "You know his scent. Can you track him?" Rex barked. Once, sharp. Then he took off across the lot. Jake followed. He didn't need backup. He had Rex. The back roads of Port Haven blurred under the cruiser's headlights. Jake gripped the wheel tight, eyes fixed on the GPS ping Vance had pushed to his phone. Van turned off Millstone, then disappeared near the old quarry. Her voice echoed from the dash speaker. "Nothing past there but forest," Jake said. "And a dozen places to hide a man they want erased." Rex sat in the passenger seat, nose pressed to the cracked window, every muscle alert. The cruiser pulled to a stop at the tree line. Jake killed the lights. "You ready?" he asked. Rex gave a low, focused bark. Jake grabbed the flashlight, the sidearm, and opened the door. Cool air hit his face. The woods ahead were dead quiet. Too quiet. They started on foot, Rex leading, weaving through tall grass and roots like a bullet with a brain. Half a mile in, Rex froze. Head low, tail straight. Jake squatted beside him. "What is it?" Rex moved slowly toward a thicket, then growled. Jake pulled his gun, pushed through the brush. A clearing opened ahead, and there it was. A cabin. Old, boarded up, no lights, no sound. Jake whispered, "Is this it?" Rex moved forward without hesitation. They circled the perimeter. Back door cracked open. Inside, dark. Jake signaled with a hand. Rex moved in first. Silent. Jake followed. The room reeked of sweat and bleach. In the center, a cot, empty. Blood-stained gauze, IV drip still swinging. "He was here," Jake muttered. Then, click, a footstep behind him. Jake spun, gun raised. A man stood in the doorway, face shadowed. "Looking for someone?" he asked. Jake kept his aim steady. "Raymond Brooks. Where is he?" The man smiled faintly. "Safe. For now." "You with Sorrel?" The man didn't answer, just looked at Rex. "That dog's caused a lot of trouble." "Funny," Jake said. "He says the same about you." The man stepped forward. "Shoot me, and you'll never find the chief." "Talk fast." "I'm just a courier," he said. "Message from Sorrel." Jake didn't flinch. "Let's hear it. You back off, walk away, or what's left of Brooks ends up in a landfill." Jake's voice dropped. "I'm not backing off." "Then you're digging your own grave." Rex lunged. The man jumped back, slamming the door shut. Jake yanked it open, but the courier was gone. Only tire tracks in the mud. Rex barked once, pacing. Jake looked down. A bloodied cloth on the floor. Initials stitched into the corner. RB. He picked it up. Still damp. "He's close," Jake said. Then the phone buzzed. Vance. "We cracked the USB. Clean sweep isn't just Port Haven." "What do you mean?" "It's nationwide. Judges, cops, city officials. Sorrel's been buying and burying people for years." Jake ran a hand down his face. "How deep?" "Deep enough the FBI won't touch it, or they're in on it." Jake glanced at Rex. "Then we go off book." He stepped back outside. No sirens, no backup, just him and the dog who wouldn't quit. Rex sniffed the ground, circled, then bolted into the woods. Jake followed. Branches snapped. A low hum in the distance. They broke through the trees. To a clearing. A van. Still running. Jake raised his gun. Moved in. Door open. Empty. In the back, straps, a stretcher, blood on the floor, and a phone. Ringing. Jake grabbed it. Answer. Silence. Then Sorrel's voice. "I warned you, Captain." "You're not getting away with this." Sorrel chuckled. "I already have." The line went dead. Jake stared at the phone, then at Rex. The dog sniffed once, twice, then turned sharply east. He barked, short, demanding. Jake didn't hesitate. He ran. Jake's lungs burned as he sprinted after Rex. The dog zigzagged through the trees like a missile on scent. Every muscle knew where to go. Every breath was purpose. 30 yards ahead, the forest broke open. A gravel road, unmarked. Beyond it, tucked behind a crumbling rock wall, an old ranger station. Abandoned, but lit. Jake dropped to one knee behind a tree, eyes on the station. He counted movement. 2 guards at the door, one on the roof, smoking. He whispered. "Rex, hold." Rex sat, chest heaving, eyes locked on the building. Jake pulled out his phone, dialed Vance. I found them. Where? Old ranger station past Millstone Quarry. Jake, wait. We just ID'd someone from the clean sweep file. It's not just Sorrel. Jake froze. Who? Someone high. Federal high. Special Agent Travis Heller. Jake clenched his jaw. I know that name. He's tied to half the task forces in the region. Jake scanned the station again. Let me guess. Sorrel's inside, and Heller's helping him disappear. Or already did. Jake ended the call. He looked down at Rex. We do this quiet. Rex huffed once. Understood. They moved low, fast. Jake cut behind a rusted shed, crept along the station's side wall. A broken window was half-boarded, just enough space. He slipped through. Rex followed silently. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and tension. Voices filtered from the back room. He moved closer, staying in shadow. Through a cracked door, he saw them. Sorrel. And Heller. Sorrel stood by a table, gloves on, cutting something with a scalpel. Not drugs. A tracker. Pulled from flesh. Brooks lay on the table, semi-conscious, his shirt bloodied. Jake's pulse spiked. We removed the chip, Sorrel said. We removed the trail. Won't stop Monroe, Heller replied. That dog's better than satellites. Sorrel smirked. Not if the dog doesn't make it out. Jake raised his weapon. He pushed the door open. Step away. Both men froze. Brooks blinked, trying to speak. Heller drew. Jake fired first. The bullet hit Heller's shoulder, spun him against the wall. Sorrel reached for something under the table. Rex launched. He crashed into Sorrel mid-reach, knocking the man to the floor. Jake rushed to Brooks, checked his pulse. Alive. Barely. Rex, off! The dog released, teeth dripping. Sorrel gasped, hand bleeding. Jake cuffed him fast. You're done. Sorrel coughed. You think this ends with me? Jake didn't answer. He turned to Heller, groaning on the floor. You want to explain why a federal agent's working cleanup for a fentanyl ring? Heller laughed. You think I'm the only one? Clean sweep's a machine. You just slowed it down. Jake stared. You gave Sorrel your badge. For what? Money? Heller grinned. Insurance. Jake raised his fist. Rex growled. Brooks whispered, Don't. Record him. Jake stepped back, pulled his phone. Hit record. Say it again, he told Heller. Heller chuckled. Sorrel paid us. Judges, DAs, task force heads. Fentanyl was just the product. The real profit's in the silence. Jake turned the camera to Sorrel. And you? Sorrel spat blood. I bought protection. That's not a crime. It's capitalism. Jake ended the recording. He looked at Brooks. You're gonna make it. Brooks tried to sit. Failed. Jake turned to Rex. Find us a way out. Rex bolted to the door. Barked once. Jake followed him through the halls, every corner tense. Outside, the guards were gone, either fled or hiding. Jake loaded Brooks into a rusted jeep parked behind the station. He shoved Sorrel and Heller in the back, zip-tied. Vance's voice crackled through his radio. Got your GPS. Sending units now. Jake clicked back. Make it fast. We're bringing down the house. Rex jumped into the front seat, panting hard. Jake looked at him. You did good. Rex barked once, then turned toward the road ahead. Jake hit the gas. They weren't running. They were taking this fight to daylight. The safe house was just outside city limits, buried under 3 feet of concrete and paranoia. Brooks lay on the cot inside, his side freshly stitched, color slowly returning to his cheeks. Vance paced near the door, phone glued to her ear, voice tense. Jake stood at the whiteboard, connecting names and arrows like a madman. Every thread led back to Sorrel, but the web around him was thicker than expected. Rex lay near Brooks' bed, head resting on his paws but eyes wide open. still on duty. You sure he's clean? Vance asked, nodding toward the locked door holding Hella and Sorrel. Jake didn't answer right away. Clean's not the word, he finally said. But he's scared. And scared men talk. Vance pocketed her phone. DA won't touch this. Says the chain of evidence is tainted. We brought them in unofficially. Jake scoffed. Of course we did. We had no choice. They were about to erase a police chief and call it an accident. Brooks stirred. We need someone bigger. Someone outside the network. Jake turned to him. You have someone in mind? Brooks nodded, wincing. U.S. Marshal Dana Royce. She used to run internal investigations for the Bureau before they blacklisted her. Jake's eyes narrowed. She won't come easy. She owes me. Brooks reached for a battered flip phone, dialed. 3 rings. Then a sharp voice. Brooks? Still alive. Silence. Then a slow exhale. Where are you? Jake grabbed the line. Marshal Royce, this is Captain Jake Monroe. We need you in Port Haven, now. I'm already halfway there. 3 hours later, Dana Royce arrived in a black SUV, dark suit, no badge showing. But her presence filled the room like thunder. She walked into the safe house, scanned the walls, then looked at Sorrel and Hella through the observation window. That them? Jake nodded. With full confessions. Royce folded her arms. Sorrel's small time compared to who's shielding him. You sure you're ready for what happens if we go public? Brooks sat up, pain obvious in his eyes. We already crossed that line. They tried to bury me alive. Royce nodded once. Then we make it count. She turned to Jake. I'll take custody, quietly. I've got an off-book transport waiting 2 hours north. Jake frowned. You trust the driver? Royce cracked a grin. It's me. No one else touches them. Jake looked at Rex. The dog rose, tail low, ears up. On edge again. Something's wrong, Jake said quietly. Then all the lights cut out. Power gone. Silence. Followed by the metallic grind of a van screeching to a halt outside. Vance drew her weapon. That's not Royce's transport. Royce checked her sidearm. They found you. Sorrel's voice rang out from his cell. You think I didn't plan for this? Jake grabbed the emergency flashlight. Rex barked, twice. Loud. Urgent. Then the first shot shattered the window. Down, Jake yelled. The room erupted. Gunfire outside. Bullet holes ripped through the front wall. Vance returned fire, ducking behind the counter. Rex charged toward the back, sensing movement. Jake followed. In the back hallway, 2 armed men stormed through the rear door. Rex launched at the first, crashing into his chest with brutal force. The second raised his weapon. Jake fired. Hit him in the leg. The man dropped with a scream. Jake spun back. Royce, move Brooks! Royce grabbed Brooks under the arm, half-carried him toward the SUV. Vance covered from the side window. Jake and Rex pushed forward, clearing the house room by room. 2 more men down in the kitchen, then quiet. Too quiet. Jake stepped outside. Smoke. Sirens in the far distance. Reinforcements. But too late. He looked toward the tree line. 1 man running. Sorrel. He must have slipped out in the chaos. Rex, track! Rex tore off like a missile. Jake right behind him. They hit the woods. The trail was fresh, leaves disturbed, a faint blood smear on the bark. Ahead, Sorrel's breathless cursing carried through the trees. Jake pushed harder, branches slicing his arms. Then, sudden silence. A clearing. Sorrel stood near a ravine, gun raised. Back off, Monroe! Jake didn't stop. You've got nowhere left to go. Sorrel shook, blood on his sleeve. I had everything set. Every cop, every judge. You sold your soul. Sorrel cocked the hammer. Then Rex broke from the brush. He leapt, a blur of fur and fury. Sorrel fired. Missed. Rex hit him mid-chest, knocking the weapon away. Jake charged in, tackled them both to the ground. Pinned, cuffed, done. Sorrel gasped. This isn't over. Jake stared down. For you, it is. Rex sat beside him, breathing hard, gaze locked on the man who nearly ended them all. Then the sirens finally arrived. Port Haven Police Department, 48 hours later. The press room was packed. Cameras, lights, sweat. Captain Jake Monroe stood at the podium, bruised and sleepless. His uniform wrinkled, his voice steady. To the people of Port Haven, he began. This week, you were nearly robbed of truth. Our own leaders, entrusted to protect you, used their power to bury it. He paused, including Deputy Chief Mitch Callahan and Federal Agent Travis Heller. Gasps. Pens scribbled. Flashes exploded. Behind him stood Marshal Dana Royce, Chief Brooks, still pale but upright, and Vance, arms crossed, and Rex, sitting tall beside Jake, wearing his canine vest, badge gleaming. Without this dog, Jake said, voice thickening, we wouldn't be standing here. He looked down. Rex tilted his head. The crowd melted a little. Rex led us to Chief Brooks, uncovered a conspiracy tied to fentanyl trafficking, judicial bribery, and attempted murder. He tracked suspects through fire, darkness, and blood, and he never gave up. Rex barked once. The room chuckled softly, then quieted again. Jake straightened. But this isn't over. He held up a flash drive. This contains the full clean sweep dossier. Every name, every transaction, every death covered up. We're handing it over to an independent task force operating out of state. He looked directly into the cameras. To those still hiding behind uniforms or titles, you have 24 hours to come forward, or we'll come to you. Reporters yelled questions. Jake didn't flinch. He stepped off the podium. The room burst into chaos. Later that evening, the safe house was quiet. Lights low, only the ticking of a wall clock and the distant hum of crickets. Brooks sat on the couch, a blanket over his lap, sipping tea. Jake leaned against the kitchen doorway, arms folded. I thought you were gone, Jake said. Brooks smiled faintly. I was. Vance entered, holding her laptop. We've had 3 resignations since the broadcast. 1 judge, 2 city council. Just 3? Jake muttered. Give it time, she said. Royce emerged from the back room, leather coat slung over her shoulder. I've got Sorrel and Heller chained to my rear axle, heading east before sunrise. You think they'll talk? Royce smirked. They'll sing. She turned to Rex. That dog deserves a medal? Jake knelt beside him. He deserves the whole damn department. Rex leaned into his chest, tired but proud. Come on, partner, Jake whispered. Let's get you home. As the night deepened, Jake drove out of town, windows down, one hand on the wheel. Rex in the passenger seat, eyes scanning the passing trees. The town of Port Haven slept below them. Quiet now, but changed. Jake glanced over. You know what's crazy? Rex looked up. This started with a bark. Just one. Rex blinked, then gently laid his head on Jake's knee. Yeah, Jake murmured. You're more than just a dog. You're the reason we pulled this town back from the edge. In the glove box, the medal sat in a velvet box. Tomorrow, it would be pinned on Rex in front of City Hall. But tonight, it stayed closed. This moment was theirs. No stage, no crowd. Just a man, a dog, and the sound of justice breathing steady in the front seat. Sunrise hit Port Haven like a quiet promise. The town square was already buzzing. Flags hung low. News vans lined the block. Officers in uniform, civilians shoulder to shoulder. The mayor at the podium, clearing his throat. But Jake wasn't there yet. He stood at the edge of the training field behind the precinct, alone with Rex. "Today's your day," he said softly, adjusting Rex's collar. "Hero of the damn hour." Rex sat perfectly still, eyes locked on Jake. He always seemed to know when it was important. Jake smiled. "But first, I need to ask something." He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a flash drive. Small, black, unmarked. "I didn't tell anyone," Jake said. "This wasn't in the broadcast." Rex tilted his head. "This drive came from Callahan's office. A backup. Something he was hiding from even Sorrel." Jake looked toward the building, toward the crowd. "I was going to hand it over to Royce," he whispered. "But then I read it." Rex let out a short breath. Waiting. "It's not over, Rex. There's another name. Higher. Buried deep. Never mentioned once in Clean Sweep or Heller's testimony." Jake crouched, eye level. Senator Malcolm Riggs. He let the name hang there. The guy who greenlit the federal task force to clean up the opioid pipeline in Oregon. The same guy who publicly called us heroes 2 days ago. Jake looked at the USB, tightened his grip. Turns out he's the one who started it. Funded Clean Sweep through private security grants. Used Sorrel to eliminate political enemies. Then used Heller to wash it all clean. He stood. "I should be proud today, Rex. But I can't walk into that crowd knowing the real king's still on the throne." Rex growled. Low. Steady. Jake nodded. "You feel it too." His phone buzzed. "Vance." "Where the hell are you?" she said. "The mayor's about to hand out the medal." Jake looked out at the crowd from the tree line. "You're going to have to stall." "What, Jake?" "I found another name." She paused. "How bad?" "Worse than Sorrel." Silence. "Do you trust me?" Jake asked. Vance sighed. "Always." "Then cover me. I need 24 hours. "You got 6. Jake hung up. He turned to Rex. "Ready?" Rex barked once, then took off toward the cruiser. By noon, they were halfway to Salem. Jake drove in silence, eyes focused, mind racing. He didn't have a plan yet, just a direction. Rex sat alert in the back seat, head constantly shifting between window and road. Jake had traced the senator's shell companies to a private estate just outside the city. Gated, fortified, guarded by a private security detail that looked a lot like paramilitary. No warrant, no backup. Just a captain and a dog with a record of blowing holes in people's lies. He pulled onto a gravel road, parked behind a row of abandoned logging trucks, used binoculars. Saw the gate. The guards. 3 men. 1 tower camera. He exhaled. "This is insane." Rex looked at him like, "And?" Jake cracked a smile. "Fine. You win." They moved on foot, through the trees, sticking to cover. Rex paused near a fence line. His ears twitched. Then he crouched. Jake followed his lead. Just ahead, a service entrance. Small keypad. No camera. Jake pulled out Callahan's keycard. Swiped. Click. They slipped in. The grounds were huge, acres of trimmed lawn, modern buildings wrapped in glass and arrogance. But they moved fast, purposeful, toward the main house. Through a side window, Jake saw him, Senator Riggs, alone in his office. Phone in hand, laughing. Jake snapped a photo through the glass, then slid around to the back. Found the kitchen door. locked. He tapped Rex's harness. Now! Rex backed up, then rammed it with full force. It cracked. Jake kicked it open. Inside, quiet. Then, a bodyguard turned the corner. Jake hit him first. 1 punch, 2, down. No time to tie him up. They stormed the hall, burst into the office. Riggs looked up. Smile vanished. Jake leveled his gun. Sit down. Riggs froze. You've lost your mind. Jake tossed the flash drive on the desk. I know everything. You funded clean sweep. You ordered the hits. You buried men like Brooks and sold this town piece by piece. Riggs stood, adjusting his tie. You think anyone's going to believe a mutt and a disgraced captain over a senator? Jake smiled. You're not on mute. He pointed to his phone. Live streaming the entire confrontation. Riggs lunged. Rex moved faster. He hit Riggs mid-torso, knocked him flat onto the floor. Jake kept the stream going. This is the real architect, he said. The man behind Port Haven's corruption, behind clean sweep, behind the attempted murder of Chief Raymond Brooks. Police sirens wailed in the distance. This time, they weren't late. Jake turned to Rex. We're not finished yet, but we just cut off the head. 2 weeks later, the Port Haven Civic Center was packed. Not a single empty seat. People lined the walls. Reporters, families, cops in full dress, veterans, kids holding signs that read, Hero. On stage, a single podium stood beneath a large screen, frozen on the face of a German shepherd. Steady gaze, black muzzle, bronze canine badge on his vest. Jake stepped up to the mic, holding a velvet box. He cleared his throat. When this began, we didn't know what was behind the bark. He turned toward Rex, seated front row, tail flicking once. But that bark saved lives, exposed corruption, uncovered the kind of truth most men run from. He opened the box. Inside, a custom medal engraved with a name. Rex Valor, loyalty, justice. He stepped down, knelt in front of Rex. The dog sat tall, unmoving, proud. Jake clipped the medal to Rex's vest. The room erupted. Applause. Whistles. People stood. Some cried. Rex barked once, loud, confident. Jake smiled. That's his version of a thank you. Brooks, standing nearby with a cane, called out, That dog took a bullet for this town. More applause. Jake looked around. But Rex didn't just protect Port Haven. He reminded us what we're supposed to be, what we fight for, what we protect. Loyalty, integrity, each other. He looked straight into the cameras. And to anyone watching this who thinks one voice can't change anything, remember, it wasn't a weapon or a politician who stopped clean sweep. He pointed to Rex. It was a bark. Quiet again. Jake leaned into the mic. So here's my ask. He turned to the crowd. Share this story. Follow the work we're doing. Support real canine programs. Follow the channel. Talk about heroes like Rex. Not just because they're loyal, but because they lead when others won't. He paused. Because the next time your world feels broken, it might just be a German shepherd who puts it back together. The audience rose again. As the lights faded, the screen lit up. German Shepherd K9. True stories. Real heroes. One bark at a time. Subscribe. Share. Tell us your story. Rex walked beside Jake off stage, medal catching the light, ears up, eyes alert. Still on duty. Always.